Hello. So I don't normally do nighttime evening videos, and I'm full transparency. I'm like mentally spent at this point because I've been doing a lot throughout today. But I just was getting the nudge to make this video, so I'm praying that God guides me through this one. I did a video similar to this one in the Bible study that I'm leading online through Telegram. If you want access to that, just contact me and let me know. It's currently just for women only. But one of the things that has been coming up in that Bible study with women who I'm guiding, and a lot of these women are in the process of coming out of the New Age, which is just, it's fascinating to me. Not every single one, but a lot of them are. And a lot of them are experiencing what I experienced as I was walking away from the New Age, which is a lot of fear, a lot of uncertainty, and a lot of grief. And so one of the questions that has been asked of me, and I don't remember the specific question, but it was just basically like, and I know that I've addressed this in some capacity in previous videos, but it's just like, but how do you get from being in New Age practices and that being an entire belief system and the lens in which you see the world through? How do you go from that to like, yay, Jesus? It's such a journey. It's such a journey. And I wish that I could sit here and give you like a 5-step process for how God has worked so quickly through my life. I can't, because it's not me, it's God. But I understand that fear so well. And so what I did in that video was I shared very, openly and honestly and vulnerably about what actually walking away felt like. Because again, like I wasn't seeing that piece in other people's videos and testimonies. And it was very similar to when I wrote Radical Rebirth, where it was like, if no one else is going to talk about this, then I'll be the one to talk about it, So I'm like, if that's my purpose, is to tell people like what to expect when walking away from the New Age, great, I'll be that person. But I had faith, but I didn't trust God. I didn't know who God was. I thought I did. I thought I knew who God was. I thought I had been interacting with God for the previous 4 years. And I know that there were moments where I did. I know there were moments, there are very pivotal moments that I can pinpoint along the last 4 years where I'm like, I know that was God. I know that was God. I know that was God. And then there were other moments where I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if it was God or Satan. I just don't know. And maybe I'll never know, and that's okay. But I think one of the biggest challenges for me was being in that in-between stage. My cats are still in cones. Being in that in-between stage where I pretty much knew what I didn't believe anymore, but I didn't yet know what I did believe. So there's a lot of unknown. During that time as well, I was still podcasting through the Uncensored podcast, and I was having a lot of interviews. I was interviewing a lot of people, or having a lot of conversations with people who are in the New Age. I had booked these guests months before, and I'm not the type of person who just cancels on people. So I was like, I'm going to go through with these interviews and we'll just see what happens. And the beautiful thing about that is that I do think in some capacity, even though I wasn't vocal I wasn't super vocal about like my own personal questions and wonderings and all of that, you do see my journey of really coming out and getting stronger in my faith and stronger in my beliefs. But there were moments where it was terrifying for me, because like one of the questions that was asked in the Bible study was like, how do you talk to people? Like, how do you talk to people when you don't even know what you believe? I'm like, yeah, that's a challenge. It is a challenge to talk to people who hold beliefs that you used to believe, and you know you don't believe those things anymore, but you're not yet strong enough in your new beliefs to be able to even have a conversation. So you end up just kind of like sitting there silent. Like, this was my experience. I was like interviewing people for the podcast, and there were moments, I remember very specific moments where I was like, I don't want to agree with them because I know I don't agree with them, but I can't disagree with them because I don't know what I would say. So I'm like, you guys, I'm a very chatty person. I have a lot of things to say, and I reflect a lot and all of that, right? So whether it's through writing or speaking or whatever, I typically have something to say. So the fact that I was sitting there so quietly, I mean, luckily these people didn't really know me, but it was really uncomfortable. It was really uncomfortable. I had a lot of like out of body experiences, where, yeah, I don't even know. But the hardest part, and yet somehow also the easiest part, was building not just my faith, but my trust in God. And I was reflecting on this tonight. I was sharing my Instagram stories, which is kind of what inspired me to sit down and actually make this video. Was, I've continued to like reflect on how quickly God has been blessing me. And people have said to me too, like people who have been Christian for a while, they're like, there's kind of this like new believer high. I don't know if they worded that way. That might just be my wording. But there's like this new believer high. It's kind of like the honeymoon phase, where you're in this like new relationship with Jesus, and you're like, yay, Jesus, Jesus is awesome, and he is. But at some point, you get into like the relationship where, not to say it's not still awesome, but then you're in the like, you have like growing pains and stuff like that. And I'm sure that's true, like I know that no path is ever 100% rainbows and butterflies. So I know this to be true. However, I keep reminding people too, like, it's not like it came to Jesus and was like, yay, Jesus. I came to Jesus and was like, what the actual F is going on, And before fully committing, I spent a lot of time where I was like, please don't make me be a Christian. Please don't make me be a Christian. Please don't make me be a Christian. The last thing I want to be is a Christian, And so it's funny because I have had multiple women in my Bible studies say, and I don't want to be a Bible thumping Jesus freak. I'm like, do you think I did? You think there was any part of me that was like, you know what I want to be? A Bible thumping Jesus freak. That was the last thing I wanted. The last thing I wanted was to be a Bible thumping Jesus freak. Right, Guinea? But Guinea's like, I didn't want that either. She's like, I was happy with the crystals and the cards and the channeling. Yeah, I have a total spiritual cat. So she was not super pleased, I think, when I came to Christ. But this household has really calmed down a lot. Has become a lot more peaceful in this household since coming to Christ. So I didn't want to be a Bible thumping Jesus freak. Well, where was I going? I got distracted by my cat. What I was reflecting on in my Instagram story tonight was specifically regarding my relationship with the Bible, and how it's interesting to me that when I was in my New Age practices, my relationship with God was very sporadic. It was very hit or miss. I really struggled to sit down and spend time with God. It was easy for me to sit down and spend time with God when things were really, bleak. It was easy for me to sit down with God when I needed him. It was really difficult for me to sit down with God when things were going well, because I had this, kind of egotistical perspective where I was just like, I have what I want. I have what I need, so why do I need to sit down with God? I'll be back when I need him again. And it's amazing now. I'm like, God, that was so disrespectful, but it's where I was at. And it's not even that, like, there was some part of me that did want to sit down with God when things were going well, because I knew that it was a relationship that I wanted, but it was really hard for me to understand God as a relational God, because I wasn't really sure God felt so abstract that I didn't really feel like I could pinpoint him, And so it was kind of like, well, when I look into quantum physics or Joe Dispenza's work, that felt very tangible and applicable, and very much kind of it felt scientific, So my logical mind could get behind the scientific aspect of God. But when things were really difficult and I was in the darkness and I was experiencing a lot of pain and struggle, I was like, how do I connect with a scientific feeling God, So then in those moments, I wanted a God I could have a relationship with. But because of that, I didn't really feel like I ever really understood God. And then I had the energetic aspect of God. And it was just it felt like all these different faces of God. It didn't feel like different qualities. It just felt like different, almost like God was schizophrenic. And so that was a challenge for me, because the reason I started down my spiritual path in 2016 was because I wanted to cultivate a relationship with God. The reason I ever came to God in the first place was because I was on my bathroom floor sobbing, praying to a God I didn't have a relationship with, praying and hoping that there was something out there who could love me when I couldn't love myself. And so how do you have a relationship with a scientific God? How do you have a relationship with the law of attraction? It left me always wanting more. It left me always wanting more and always seeking for something else. I never really felt fully fulfilled with that version of God. And so when I came to Christ in January, I had already been reading the Bible, but when I came to Christ in January, I started to read the Bible with a completely different intention. The very first sermon I saw at my church, because I was watching online at that point, the very first sermon I saw was on the topic, can I trust the Bible? And I did not trust the Bible. So I was like, this is really appropriate. And the entire series for the month was the biblical worldview. And I was like, this is great, because I know nothing about looking at the world through the biblical lens, because I don't know anything about the Bible. And, the pastor who was preaching that morning was talking about, all the different reasons we can trust the Bible. There are probably 5 reasons, I think, and I don't remember all of them off the top of my head, but I do remember one of them was because it was kind of like, he was like, if you're in conversation with someone and they ask you, like, do you trust the Bible? Okay, yes, I do. Well, why do you trust the Bible? He's like, you can't just say, because it's how I was raised, because there are a lot of people who were raised in really weird ways, like, that doesn't really give you much of a leg to stand on. And so he's like, you need to know when someone asks you, why do you trust the Bible? You need to know why you do, and like, he wasn't saying like, this is the answer you give once, but it was like, here are some reasons why one might trust the Bible. See which one is the one that you're most passionate about or whatever. And so the reasons that he gave that I remember, one was that it's historically accurate. Another one was that it's prophetically accurate, right? So the prophecies have actually the prophecies in the Old Testament many of them have been fulfilled in the New Testament. And over 300 of the prophecies about Jesus have been fulfilled, and there's only one left, and that's his returning. Which I was like, what? Those are pretty good odds. So, and then the last one that I remember was that it's transformational. Well, I hadn't had a personal transformation with the Bible at that point, and I remember him talking about, there are people, like, I don't remember them, tons of people. It's a really, really scientific number. Tons of people who have had their lives transformed by the Bible, by the Word of God. And I didn't view it as the Word of God at that time, but I started thinking to myself, if it's worked for that many other people, then what do I have to lose? I have literally lost nearly everything in my life. So, what do I have to lose by reading the Bible through the lens of, first it was, is this true? Which then shifted to, this is true. What do I have to lose by reading it through that lens and actually applying it to my life? It's like my life can't really get any worse than it's been, and it's not to say that my life sucked for the last 4 years. I've had some really great things, but I did have a friend of mine, or I should say more of like an acquaintance, but she's been watching my journey for a while, and she and I talked on the phone, I think it was last week, and she asked me, Anne, what was the last rock bottom you had before you came to Christ? And I said, well, to be honest, like, and I gave a story, but I said that the problem was that I got so used to having rock bottoms that they almost didn't feel like rock bottoms anymore. Like, that's pretty terrible, right? So when you're like, yeah, rock bottoms are so normal that they just don't even feel like rock bottom anymore. So, that's kind of where I was at. Every time I thought that things were getting better, I felt like the rug got pulled out from underneath me again, and I would have people very close to me in my life saying, I just don't understand. You work hard, you're a good person, you've got great intentions, you got a great message, you're gifted, like, it makes zero sense that you're struggling as much as you are. I'm like, I know. I am very aware in me living my life that I don't understand it. And so that's where I was at. I have nothing to lose because I've kind of already lost it, and it's been amazing to me that in, again, such a short period of time, God has really truly shown me the power of his word. But what happened and how that happened over time was, as I was sitting down to read the Bible, I was seeing his qualities. I was seeing the qualities of faithfulness, of consistency, of mercy, of grace, of love and compassion, and also judgment and law and order, but there was something that felt really grounded in the word. And there was something that felt different between just hearing someone else's testimony and actually reading it in the Bible, because I felt like for the last 4 years, I had been hearing other people's stories of how, they implemented this, I don't know, process, or, I don't know, but usually it was like some sort of process, right? Like this one process that completely transformed my life. And I was like, okay, so God is showing up in other people's lives and they're doing these things. At some point, something has to work. And that's where I was at. At some point, something is going to work. I don't know what. I didn't think it was going to be the Bible. At some point, something is going to work. At some point, it just will, I had so many years of believing that God showed up for other people but didn't show up for me, that God was faithful to other people but not to me, that I was like, God must like other people better, maybe there's something in a past life that I'm still paying for. Like, that's kind of where I was at. Like, well, there must be something in a past life that I'm paying for. And at some point, if it's not this lifetime, maybe the next lifetime. Thank God I learned that early on, that like we get one lifetime. But, that would have been a downer. So, as I was reading the Bible, there was something different about reading it, seeing it in text, knowing how ancient this text is, that it wasn't just like, Susie from social media had this great experience in her life. It's like, no, Moses, who led his people out of not his people, right? He led God's people out of Egypt, and God parted the Red Sea. It was just like reading those types of things, those types of stories, those were the ones that really resonated with me. And so going back to the sermon that my pastor had preached that day, right? It was when people actually apply the Bible to their lives, they have a transformational experience in a way that other things did not work for them. He's like, there are people who have tried every other way, every other path, specifically regarding addiction. And I'm pretty sure he brought up alcoholism. And, I do believe that there were pieces along my New Age path that did work. I did heal my alcoholism through New Age. I did. However, I think that one of the biggest differences is that I was intentionally, even if I didn't understand God, I was intentionally cultivating a relationship with God the entire time. Like that has always been my intention since 2016, even if I didn't understand fully what was going on. And so I do think that there was something happening during those years, even though I wasn't reading the Bible, there was some way that God was transforming me along the way. And then as soon as I came to the Bible and had access to the Holy Spirit, it was like rapid fire, But there were pieces along the way that I had started to heal. So I understood even before coming to the Bible, the power of God to transform and to be able to remove certain struggles that had been lifelong struggles. However, there were other struggles, specifically around my finances and some other things, that he really has been working through and working out in me the last few months. but I almost took that on as a challenge. You know, when the pastor said that the Word of God, the Bible, is transformational, and that the people who live their life by Scripture, not just the people that are like, yeah, I'm a Christian, but like have never read the Bible, don't understand the Bible, haven't studied the Bible, and aren't actively applying it to their lives, aren't in prayer with God. You know, just there are pieces to it. But the people who actually commit their lives to Christ and to living their life through the lens, through, you know, the biblical worldview lens, their lives are transformed. And so I kind of took that as a challenge, because I like a bit of a challenge. I like a good transformational challenge in my life. And so I was like, all right, let me see what this thing can do. Didn't think it would happen so quickly. Definitely didn't. But I saw it as a challenge. And, you know, and it was also kind of a conversation I've been having with Jesus since the beginning of the year, was I can't talk about you to other people unless I have a personal experience with you. And so, you know, when I learned that the God of the Bible is a relational God, he wants to be in relationship, that was really good news for me. That was really good news for me, because I know how to have relationship. I know how to be in relationship. I just didn't understand who I was in relationship with. And so once I started to learn that, like, oh, well, Jesus is God, and I started to go back and forth between the Old Testament and the New Testament, I felt like I got a bigger picture, you know, of who God is. And so therefore it made it a lot easier for me to just sit down and have a relationship, to have a conversation. And what's really interesting now is that I actually want to spend more time with God now when things are going well than before. Before it was like I only want to spend time with him when things were not good, because I needed something from him. Basically, I only went to God when I needed something from him. And, you know, those aren't healthy relationships. Like, you think of any relationship in your life, if you're only going to someone when you need something from them, that relationship is going to be a rocky relationship. And everything before felt like ritual and like some sort of process I was trying to implement. And now it is a genuine relationship. I actually pray more for other people than I pray for myself, which before I was like, sorry guys, I was like not praying for other people. I was so self-centered. I was just like, what goals have I set? What goals do I want to achieve? What do I want? Visualize, vision board, all the things, you know, what life do I want? Because it was kind of like, once I have that life, then I can finally really show up for other people. It's not that I wasn't showing up for people. You know, I was constantly creating content and you know, mentoring people and all kinds of things. But now I spend way more time focused on other people than I do myself. And naturally, like, it just naturally focus more on other people. But again, like, this has been a process. And so I have just continued to hold space for the women in my Bible study, because I'm like, you guys, I understand the struggle, you know. And there's a huge part of us that doesn't want to leave behind what feels comfortable, because at least we know what to expect. Even if it's not working for us, we know what to expect with it, you know? And so to leave that behind and to try something that is an unknown, and that we have been told has an agenda and is untrustworthy and is unhealthy and has toxic masculinity and all of these things, right? Of course, we're not like, yay, let me go hang out with Jesus for a while. But again, what I have shared with these women is, I understand not wanting to be a Bible thumping Jesus freak. Totally get that. The cool thing though is that I do consider myself now to be a Bible thumping Jesus freak, but I didn't lose the pieces of myself that I really like. You know, if anything, and not even if anything, just period, God has made me better. Everything about who I was that I actually liked, God has taken that and made it even better. So yeah, I am a Bible thumping Jesus freak now. It is what it is, you know, but I don't think I've become annoying. I mean, I'm sure to some people I'm annoying, but like, I don't think I've become like, I'm not the woman standing on the corner with a sign, you know, like screaming at people. I'm not the woman who goes up to strangers and is like, have you accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior? Like, I'm not knocking on people's doors. I'm not that woman. For the most part, I'm actually pretty quiet about my faith unless I'm like creating a video or writing something, or if someone is asking me a very specific question. But a lot of times, if I'm just in like normal daily interaction with people don't know that I'm a Bible thumping Jesus freak. I kind of keep it on the DL, you know? But again, God has taken all the qualities that I really like about myself and has improved those things. And there was one more thing I was going to say regarding the in-between phase. And I was sharing it with my Bible study. I don't remember. I remember it was something that was extreme. I remember it was something that was extremely emotional. I do remember that. But yeah, it's not coming to me. So I guess if it comes up, I will do another video specifically regarding that one thing, I guess. But no, that's ultimately, I guess what I wanted to share is I understand that it feels like a really big leap. You know, I understand that it feels like a really big leap to walk away from something that we have known, to step into something that is unknown. And I know that I've shared this in another video, but like the only regret that I have is that I didn't come to Christ. I didn't come to Christ sooner, right? I didn't come to the Bible sooner than I did. I'm grateful. I'm grateful to the journey that I've had, because it has helped me have a level of appreciation. It's kind of like, man, I didn't even, like, I wouldn't understand how good this is if I hadn't experienced the other stuff, you know? So like, there are people who have been Christians their whole lives and they've always had a relationship with Jesus. And there's a part of me that's like, man, you're so lucky. You've had like your entire life to have a relationship with Jesus. That's so awesome. But they also, they're missing a bit of the contrast. Not to say they haven't experienced struggles, of course, we all do, but they haven't really known a life without Jesus, you know? And so they don't know. They don't know. I remember the other thing I was gonna say. Part of me was kind of stalling, hoping that it would pop up. But the last thing that I shared in that video to my Bible study was that, you know, there's this fear when you look at changing your spiritual beliefs. I think that's probably like the most terrifying thing you could ever change, because that's supposed to be your anchor. It's what truly helps you to make sense of this world that we live in. And, you know, I had already walked away from the Democratic Party last year. March 2020, I walked away. And that was a challenge for me, because I had to have some really difficult conversations with people in my life who started to see me in a different way. They were like, oh, well, if you're not a Democrat anymore, if you're not a liberal anymore, then that must mean that your values have changed. So then it was like, well, has her heart changed? Has her compassion changed? Does she now judge people? Is she hateful? Is she, And I'm like, who I am didn't change. It's just the lens that I see the world through. A lot of my values, some values changed, but a lot of my values were still the same. It's just that I saw that those values weren't being fulfilled on the left. It was all like smoke and mirrors. It wasn't happening. And so when I walked away, I already felt my world kind of flipping upside down, right? And that was a challenge because I was kind of like, you kind of go through this like, who am I? What do I believe? What's true? What's real? But I was like, at least I have my spiritual beliefs. I have my spiritual practices. I didn't really have my spiritual community per se, but I did have really good friends who were kind of like my lifeline through those moments. Well, when I came to Christ, I didn't know any Christians. I didn't have any Christian friends. And so I was like, not only have I walked away from the Democratic Party, but I've now walked away from all of my closest, not that I walked away from my friends. I'm still, friends with those people, but it changed. My friendships changed because I think that's actually harder than changing political parties. And I didn't join a specific party. I just walked away from the left and I just became a non-liberal. But I think it's way more difficult to walk away from the New Age because you're like, we no longer agree on who God is. That's kind of a big deal. It's kind of a big deal. And so it really jacks you up for a little bit, because you're like, it flips everything. It flips everything. And so, God had literally taken everything in my life and it was just like, do. And the blessing in all of that was that I had nothing else to grasp onto except for him. And so I still spend a lot of time with him, but I spent so much time with him and he took away my business. Because he was like, well, you built these on Satan's beliefs, so we're going to take that away. And I didn't know I knew what my God-given gifts were, but I didn't know how to make money with them, And so I was kind of like, I literally don't know what to do, so I guess I'll just read the Bible. I have nothing on my calendar today. I guess I'm reading the Bible. And although I had a relationship for a short period of time, I made a video about that and we were only together for about a month and then that ended. And so that was, I'm telling you guys, like it was when my life was flipping upside down and I was under insane spiritual attack. I had crazy spiritual warfare happening. I was like, at least I have a relationship. Not that I was dependent on the relationship, but I was just like, I had this loving partner who is so supportive and he's consistently guiding me back to Jesus. Like it's healthy. And then it was like right as I was finding my footing, like perfect timing of like, things are just about to like get exponentially better. And God was like, and now we take the relationship away. And that was really hard. But it has completely strengthened my relationship with him. And so that's the blessing in it all. When everything in your life is like, you're like, I don't know who to trust. I don't know what to believe. And I understand if you're like, well, I don't know who to trust and I don't know what to believe. Like the natural thing is not like, let me go hang on Jesus, you know? But I got in the Word. I spent time in the Bible, and I was always seeking for understanding. And he was consistent. He was consistent and he was faithful, and he's still consistent and he's still faithful. And it's amazing because I literally don't experience fear. Like, I would say I don't experience fear or anxiety. I never experience anxiety anymore. But I would say I am without fear probably 99% of the time. I have moments where like little things will pop in, and then I'm like, psh, that's ridiculous, because God is faithful and he's consistent, and he showed me that over and over and over and over and over and over again. Like I have a bajillion instances in like the last 2 weeks, you know, and I know that that's just Satan like, hey, but what if? And I'm like, that's like not even true. But that used to be a lot more often, and I used to have to try a lot harder to get rid of that fear. It was like, okay, meditation and affirmations and you know, journaling it out and looking at what the limiting belief is and yada 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 yada. And it's like none of that. Not do any of that. Like I hear from, you know, some people who I have been connected with, and they're talking about all the inner work that they're doing and all of these things, and I just think, God, that sounds exhausting. And I remember doing it. I taught it. I coached people through it, you know? So it's like, I get it. I totally understand where that comes from. But I'm just like, thank God I don't have to do any of that anymore, because I just don't have to. And it's not spiritual bypassing. It's not like I literally just, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist in my life. I don't know. It's this level of just peace and calm and confidence, because I know who God is, and I know where I'm going, and I know that he's by my side the entire time. So there's literally nothing to fear. So that is that's my update for the night, and answering, I guess, whatever questions people have kind of had along the way. And yeah, all the information is below the video. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.